Ouija board. Definitely something I know way too much about. Hey ghosts and ghouls, welcome back to my channel. And then if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. I'm crazy. I mean Queen of Horror. Hi, hello, how are you? Okay, hit subscribe if you want. It's not forced. Anyway, so for today's video, I'm going to be doing another Ouija talk, which this should have been my first Ouija talk. Unfortunately, I didn't think about it until now. But yeah, I'm sorry if you've seen them before. This might be like reviewing away, but actually there is a little bit of extra in it, just in case you have seen my other ones. But anyways, this Ouija talk is on just what the Ouija board is as a whole. It's not about the rules of the board, not about the tips of the board. It's just what the board is, where it came from. You might get a few little facts, like, you might get a little bit of rules about the board, but, like, yeah, it's more generalized, so for those that have seen my other ones, you do still get new information. But without further ado, I'm gonna shut up. I'm sorry. Let's get into the video. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is just the Ouija board itself. Now, this right here is the Ouija board. If you've never seen one, here is the Ouija board. And Wikipedia's definition of the Ouija board is a board with yes, no, numbers, letters, and goodbye. Something like that. That's literally what the definition of a Ouija board is on Wikipedia. And it says it's also used for seances, which can be questionable depending on your purposes. I mean, yes, you can use these for seances, but that's not why everyone uses them, per se. But this is what a Ouija board looks like. It's made out of cardboard or wood. I don't know. I don't want to break it to find out the material. Many companies make it. I think Parker Brothers made mine, or Hasbro I think made mine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Hasbro did. I don't know exactly, but this is what a Ouija board looks like. Ouija board. This is the planchette. It goes on the Ouija board. I suck at this. It moves about. Yes, no, letters, numbers, goodbye. Okay, that's what a planchette is. This is what you use to communicate on the board. Yes, so that's your basics of what a Ouija board is, and the Ouija board is used to talk to dead spirits, not demons. I quit on life. No, I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. Not demons, not angels, it just talks to dead spirits on Earth that are in purgatory. But that is what a Ouija board is in a nutshell. Now, let's get into what I found out about the origin of the Ouija board. So, the origin of the Ouija board is actually, well, it's not complicated. It is complicated, but it's not super complicated. But it's complicated. But it's not complicated. It's like, okay, so this is the origin of the Ouija board. Basically, with the Ouija board, well, I don't entirely, it's kind of like a really hard origin to figure out. Now, in America, I can give you somewhat of an origin of when it came here, but if it was ever anything before America, I can't really give you an origin. That's where it gets really tricky. This thing kind of just appeared out of nowhere, but apparently one thing I read, people were using the board asking what to name it, and it literally spelled out Ouija, and they said, what does that mean? And it means good luck. But considering the stories I've heard, I don't know how true that is. Anyways, but the origin I have for you today that I actually took notes on, where was it? In the 19th century, which is the 1800s, in case you didn't know that, because I had to do some math there, spiritualism was a really big thing. Now, in the 1800s, as most of you probably know, hopefully they taught you something decent in school besides things about the angles of triangles that no one's going to really need to know one day. Anyways, basically, with the origin, well, at the time, spiritualism was a really big thing, and people didn't live that long back then. Like, nowadays, you know, they say the average lifespan's like 70-something years. Well, I'm planning to live like 100 years, at least, just an FYI. But, like, my grandma, she's like 95 years old, so I'm hoping I live as long as her, and then some, but yeah, she's doing really good. But anyways, so basically, people didn't live that long back then. Like, they were lucky if they even, like, maximum was like 50, and they were done for. That's midlife for us nowadays. So, spiritualism was a big thing. You also had wars going on, a lot more diseases. I mean, we have a lot of diseases nowadays, but there's more cures. Back then, you had tons of diseases. No one knew the cure for them. Everyone was just dropping dead. And mothers would die during childbirth. Kids wouldn't even, like, live that long. Like, life was a lot harder back then, survival-wise. Because nowadays, I mean, it's a lot different. But basically that during those times, two sisters, the Fox sisters, I forgot their names, but they were like sisters, came up with this or something, or they found this or something, and they started using it, and then, it first the Ouija board first sprouted up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm looking for the year because I wrote it down. February of 1891. And it was like in the newspapers, like, oh yeah, this thing, it can predict, it tells the past, the present, and the future, and it's really accurate, it's amazing. And like, people were like, wow, really? Like they were so impressed. And it was only $1.50 back then. Now this thing costed me $30. No, it costed my dad $30 because he bought it for me. Thank you, Daddy. Anyways, so yeah, it was a lot cheaper back then. But when people used it and stuff, or like people would use it and stuff, and also it was said if you used this, you wouldn't have. If you used it on Saturday, like the seance, you wouldn't have to go to church on Sunday because the religion was a lot bigger back then. Let's all face it. It was bigger back then. Nowadays, we're all going downhill. Everything's going downhill with life as a whole. Just everything. Anyways, so yeah, people would use it on Saturday nights and would do seances, and, well, not like seances, we use the word, but they called it the seance. And back then also, people nowadays, if they see you have a Ouija board or you start talking about it, they're like, you're opening the gates of hell, what are you doing, you're crazy. Like, that's literally what they assume. Back then, that was common. It was normal. People found it very normal and common. They didn't care, like, or not that they didn't care, but no one was judgmental like nowadays. People weren't fazed by it. It was like, it was normal to talk to the dead, and especially because of how much death happened, it was normal for people to want to communicate. Nowadays, people look at it like, you're crazy if you use a Ouija board. You need to get locked up. You are unholy. Like, what is it? The power of Christ compels you. Leave. Like, that's how people look at it now. But that's the origin I have with the Ouija board. That was a really long thing on the origin, but let's get into some other little things. Now, as I said earlier, the Ouija board is used to ask the dead questions. So, there are many rules to the Ouija board, which I have many other Ouija talks. Go check them out on my channel, Queen of Horror, as you all know. Actually, I'll link the rules in the description down below if I remember. I'll probably remember. I have a good memory. Usually. Anyways, so there's like many rules of the Ouija board, and because I have a whole other video dedicated to it, I'm just going to tell you the top 3. Like, these are the rules that I always heard together. Always, my whole life, these 3 rules I always heard together. Like, if you're going to follow any rules, follow these ones. The first one, never play alone, because if you play alone, you're more vulnerable. Also, they say you may not have enough energy to even do it. But it's always more dangerous when you play alone. It's kind of like if you go into the woods at night and it's pitch black. It's more risky for you to go alone than it's kind of like that. Go in the woods alone, you're more vulnerable because people are like, you're alone. So that it's easier to attack. Whereas if you have a friend with you, it's easier. Like, you know, you're less likely to get attacked because you're not alone. If that makes sense. So that's rule number 1 that I always heard. Rule number 2, never play in a graveyard or at a crime scene. The reasons for that is if you play in a graveyard, there is a ton of dead bodies there. More than the tombstones probably are showing. So there's a lot of dead bodies. When you start using this thing in the graveyard, because spirits like to talk, they want to be heard. So when you start doing this in the graveyard, they're like, ooh, 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 I want to be heard, I want to be heard. It's kind of like if you're in a room full of a ton of little kids, and they're all crying, and, you know, it's like they all want something, and they're all crying at the same time. It's kind of like that, but they're not little kids, and they're much more deadly than little kids. But yeah, so that's why you don't play in a graveyard. And rule number 3, the last rule, which is very important, which if you haven't caught on by now, I say at the end of every single one of my videos, always say goodbye. Bye! Yeah, that's what there's a reason. Have subliminal messaging. Oh yeah, I have subliminal messages in my videos, but yeah, always say goodbye, because if you don't, it's literally like leaving your front door open, and spirits will come into, or spirits can come into this world. Terrible things can happen. But yeah, those are the 3 rules I am giving you for today. And if you want to hear more rules, more tips, check out my other Ouija talks. There's so much more. I plan to do more in the future, but yeah. Alright, that is it for today's video. I've successfully did everything I wanted for this video. I'm sorry it was longer than expected. I really don't like to make these videos super long, but if you make it to the end of my videos, I congratulate you, I applaud you, I thank you so much. But make sure to give this video a thumbs up because it does help me out. Make sure to subscribe because I make videos every single week. It lets you know when I upload new videos. Also, leave a comment down below telling me what you thought of this video. Any other Ouija talks you want to see me do, what you thought of this Ouija talk, if you learned anything new, if you've ever tried the Ouija board, hey, let me know. Follow my social media, all of that will be down below. I mostly am active on Instagram. I just want to make that clear. So if you try the other ones, I may not be on there, but Instagram I'm very active on if you want to go check that out. Check out my website, queenofhorror.com, because I post everything horror there. And that's pretty much it. So until next time, bye guys! And remember, always say goodbye.